The alarm screamed through Station Omega-7 as Queen Lyra watched the observation deck's main screen flicker between static and the image of a damaged alien vessel spinning helplessly toward the asteroid field. Her royal guard, Captain Torres, stood motionless beside her throne, his hand resting on his weapon as emergency lights bathed the chamber in crimson. "Your Majesty," Communications Officer Chen's voice crackled through the intercom. "The vessel is requesting emergency assistance. 2 life forms aboard, both juveniles according to our scans." The Queen's violet eyes never left the screen as the ship's hull sparked against floating debris. "Species unknown, ma'am. They're transmitting on old Coalition frequencies, but the language is strange." Captain Torres stepped forward, his weathered face grim. "Could be a trap, Your Majesty. Pirates have used children as bait before." The ship lurched violently as a chunk of metal tore through its port engine. On the screen, 2 small figures pressed against what appeared to be a viewing port, their forearms waving desperately. "They're just kids," whispered Lieutenant Morrison from her position at the tactical station. Queen Lyra's fingers tightened on her throne's armrests. The Commonwealth had strict protocols about unknown vessels, especially near the royal station, but something in the children's frantic movements stirred memories of her own daughter, lost 3 years ago in a similar asteroid field. "Status of our rescue ships? Nearest vessel is 40 minutes out, Your Majesty. That ship has maybe 10. The alien vessel shuddered as another impact sent it careening toward a massive asteroid. On screen, one of the children held up what looked like a small device, its surface glowing with symbols that pulsed in a pattern too deliberate to be random. "They're trying to communicate," Chen said, adjusting his console. "The device is transmitting mathematical sequences, basic universal concepts." "Smart kids," Torres muttered, his tactical mind already calculating rescue scenarios. The Queen stood, her ceremonial robes flowing around her like liquid silver. "What about the maintenance crew on Platform 7? How far are they from that sector?" "Platform 7? Morrison checked her readings. "Engineer Rodriguez is there with a skeleton crew, maybe 5 minutes from the alien vessel's trajectory. But Your Majesty, they're not equipped for rescue operations." "Rodriguez." The Queen's voice carried the weight of command. "The man who rebuilt our entire life support system in 4 hours when the Martian rebels hit us last year." Torres nodded slowly. "He's good, but this isn't engineering, Your Majesty. This is a live rescue with unknown variables." The alien ship spun faster now, its remaining engine sputtering as it fought against the asteroid field's gravitational pull. The 2 children had moved away from the viewing port, and new readings showed their vessel's life support failing. "Get me Rodriguez," the Queen commanded. The comlink activated with a burst of static before the engineer's gruff voice emerged. "Rodriguez here, Your Majesty. Watching the situation. That ship's got maybe 8 minutes before it's scrap metal." "Can you reach them?" "With the maintenance pod? Maybe. But I'd have to strip our safety protocols and push the engines past redline. And if those kids panic when I dock, they won't panic." The Queen's voice carried absolute certainty. They'd been communicating through mathematics. They understand cause and effect. On screen, the alien vessel struck a smaller asteroid, sending both spinning in a deadly dance. The children reappeared at the viewing port, and this time their device projected a clearer image, a crude but recognizable diagram of their ship's systems and the source of their engine failure. "They're showing us exactly what's wrong," Chen breathed. "Look at this. They've isolated the problem to their primary motivator coupling." Rodriguez's voice crackled back. "I see it. Standard Coalition design, just older. Real old. If I can get close enough to boost their power, they might have enough juice to break free of the field's pull." The Queen stepped closer to the main screen, studying the 2 small figures. They'd stopped waving and now stood perfectly still, watching the space around their ship with the kind of calm that spoke of either absolute trust or complete resignation. "Your Majesty," Torres said quietly, "if we commit Rodriguez to this rescue and it goes wrong, then we'll deal with the consequences." She turned to face her tactical officer. "Morrison, clear all traffic from Sector 7. I want nothing but empty space around that rescue operation." "Yes, Your Majesty. And patch me through to Rodriguez." The Queen waited for the connection. Engineer. Those children just trusted us with a complete schematic of their ship's vulnerabilities. That's not the action of enemies. Understood, Your Majesty. Beginning approach now. The screen split to show Rodriguez's maintenance pod accelerating toward the alien vessel, its small frame dwarfed by the massive asteroids surrounding them. The children's ship continued its deadly spiral, but now something had changed in their posture. They'd seen the approaching human craft and stood together, their forearms linked in what could only be hope. Time to impact? The Queen asked. 6 minutes, Morrison replied, her voice tight with tension. Rodriguez's pod moved through the asteroid field like a dancer, weaving between chunks of metal and stone with precision born from decades of experience. On screen, the alien children pressed against their viewing port again, their large eyes reflecting the pod's approach lights. The real test was just beginning. Rodriguez's maintenance pod cut through the asteroid field's chaos like a blade through silk, its small frame betraying none of the power humming within its modified engines. Queen Lyra watched the tactical display as her engineer closed the distance to the alien vessel, each second ticking away precious time before the ship would spiral beyond any hope of rescue. 300 meters and closing, Morrison reported, her fingers dancing across the tactical controls. The alien vessel's lost attitude control completely. On the main screen, the two children had moved to what appeared to be their ship's control center, their forearms working in perfect coordination as they manipulated crystalline interfaces that pulsed with soft blue light. Despite their obvious youth, their movements showed the practiced efficiency of trained pilots. Rodriguez, what's your assessment? The Queen asked. The engineer's voice came back steady despite the violent maneuvers his pod was making to match the alien ship's erratic spin. Their hull's intact, but that engine damage is worse than it looked. They've got maybe 2 minutes of power left before total system failure. Captain Torres stepped closer to the throne, his expression troubled. Your Majesty, even if Rodriguez reaches them, how do we know he can interface with their systems? That technology looks nothing like Coalition standard. The Queen's gaze never left the screen, where Rodriguez's pod had now closed to within 50 meters of the spinning alien craft. Look at their responses, Captain. These children haven't panicked once. They've shown us their problem, and now they're trying to solve it themselves. That speaks to intelligence and training. As if responding to her words, one of the alien children held up their glowing device again. This time, the symbols it projected formed a clear mathematical progression. Coordinates, vectors, and what could only be docking procedures. They're telling him where to attach, Chen said in amazement. Look at this translation matrix. They've calculated the optimal connection point for a standard Coalition emergency coupling. Rodriguez's pod aligned with the alien vessel's rotation, matching its spin with millimeter precision. I see it. They want me to dock at their ventral airlock. Smart kids. That's exactly where I'd choose. The two craft touched with barely a tremor, Rodriguez's magnetic clamps engaging with the alien hull. On screen, the children moved to what was clearly their airlock, but instead of opening it, they activated a new interface that sent streams of data directly to Rodriguez's pod. What in the hell? Rodriguez muttered over the comm. They're giving me complete access to their systems, full diagnostic data, power distribution, even their navigation protocols. Queen Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. In 15 years of ruling the Commonwealth's frontier territories, she'd never encountered aliens willing to share such sensitive information with strangers. The level of trust these children were showing defied everything she knew about first contact protocols. Rodriguez, can you boost their power? Working on it now, Your Majesty. Their coupling system is elegant, different from ours, but the principles are the same. Just need to... His voice trailed off as warning alarms sounded through his pod. Problem. Big problem. The tactical display exploded with new contacts as 3 ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the asteroid field. Their signatures were unknown, but their aggressive approach pattern sent every instinct Torres possessed into high alert. Your Majesty, those ships are moving fast and armed for combat, Morrison reported, her voice tight with tension. Queen Lyra's mind raced through the implications. Pirates wouldn't attack a royal station directly. The retribution would be swift and total. But if these were the children's people arriving to find humans attached to their vessel, Rodriguez, How long for the power transfer? 30 seconds, but Your Majesty, you need to see this. The kids aren't just taking power, they're sharing their navigation data. They've got charts of hyperspace routes I've never seen before, passages that could cut travel time through this sector by 70%. The approaching ships had spread into attack formation, their weapons charging as they accelerated toward the asteroid field. On screen, the alien children had stopped working at their controls and now stood perfectly still, their large eyes fixed on something beyond their viewing port. They see their people coming, Torres observed. Question is, are those ships here to rescue or to silence? The lead ship fired a warning shot that vaporized an asteroid less than 50 meters from Rodriguez's position. The message was clear. Release the alien vessel or face the consequences. Rodriguez, disconnect immediate. Wait. The Queen's command cut across the bridge like a blade. Look at the children! On screen, the two young aliens had moved to their communication array. Instead of signaling their approaching people, they were transmitting to Rodriguez's pod. The translation matrix lit up with their message. Human friend, we give gift. Please take. Remember us. Your Majesty, Torres said urgently. Those ships will fire on Rodriguez if he doesn't release immediately. The power transfer completed with a soft chime from Rodriguez's console. The alien vessel's engines flared to life, breaking free of the asteroid field's grip. But instead of moving toward their people's ships, the children oriented their craft toward the royal station. They're not going home, Morrison whispered. They're coming here. The lead alien ship fired again, this time directly at Rodriguez's pod. Only the engineer's reflexes saved him as he disengaged and rolled away from the blast. The children's vessel accelerated towards Station Omega 7, their people's ships in pursuit. Full defensive posture, the Queen commanded. All ships to intercept formation around the station. Your Majesty, Chen called out, I'm receiving a transmission from the children's vessel. They're requesting political asylum. The words hung in the air like electricity before a storm. In the space of 10 minutes, a simple rescue operation had become a potential interstellar incident with species they'd never encountered before. Queen Lyra stood at the center of it all, her violet eyes calculating the odds. 3 unknown warships against her modest defensive fleet. 2 alien children carrying technology that could revolutionize human space travel. And somewhere in the balance, the future of human expansion into this sector of the galaxy. Rodriguez, get back here now, she ordered. Morrison, launch all defensive corvettes but maintain non-aggressive postures. Chen, signal the alien warships. Tell them we're prepared to discuss terms. The children's ship continued its approach, and through the viewing port, Queen Lyra could see them still standing together, their forearms linked as they faced an uncertain future with the same calm they'd shown throughout their ordeal. The next few minutes would determine whether first contact became humanity's greatest opportunity or its most dangerous mistake. Rodriguez's maintenance pod streaked back towards Station Omega 7 as the alien warships closed in behind him, their sleek hulls gleaming silver against the star field. Queen Lyra watched the tactical display with growing concern. Her defensive fleet was outnumbered and clearly outgunned by technology she couldn't begin to understand. The children's vessel had reached the station's outer perimeter where it hovered just beyond the defensive grid. On the main screen, the 2 young aliens stood at their control station, their large eyes fixed on the human warships that had scrambled to protect them. Your Majesty, Chen reported, the lead alien vessel is responding to our communication attempt. Audio coming through now. The bridge speakers crackled with static before a melodic but clearly authoritative voice emerged, speaking in perfectly accented coalition standard. Human Queen, you harbor criminals who have violated the sacred laws of the Kethvar Collective. Return our property immediately or face the consequences of your interference. Queen Lyra felt the temperature in the room seem to drop. Property? She said slowly. Those are children, not objects. Captain Torres moved closer to the throne, his hand unconsciously checking his sidearm. Your Majesty, if they consider those kids property, this isn't a rescue situation. It's a pursuit. The alien commander's voice returned, colder now. The genetic constructs you shelter were created for a specific purpose. Their theft from our research facility represents an act of war against the collective. Genetic constructs. The Queen's voice carried a dangerous edge. "You're talking about engineered slaves. We are talking about valuable assets that belong to us by right of creation. You have 30 seconds to surrender them, or we will take them by force." On screen, the children had heard the transmission. Instead of fear, their expressions showed something Queen Lyra recognized all too well: the desperate determination of those with nothing left to lose. One of them activated their communication device again, and Chen translated the incoming signal. "They're sending us their complete genetic profiles," he said in amazement. "And, Your Majesty, they're not just engineered. They're enhanced. Intelligence quotients off any scale we use, reaction times faster than baseline human, and memory capabilities that approach perfect recall." Rodriguez's pod slid into the station's docking bay just as the alien warships arranged themselves in a classic intimidation formation. But instead of opening fire, they waited, their weapons trained on the station's defensive grid. "They want those children alive," Torres observed. "Otherwise, they'd have simply blown us apart by now." The Queen stood, her ceremonial robes shifting around her like liquid starlight. "Chen, open a channel to the children's ship." The main screen shifted to show the interior of the alien vessel. The two children stepped forward, their forearms clasped together in what was clearly a gesture of formal greeting. "Human Queen," the smaller one spoke in halting Coalition standard. "We are Zara and Kira. We thank you for saving us." "Why did you run?" the Queen asked gently. The larger child, Kira, answered with a maturity that made Queen Lyra's heart ache. "They made us to be weapons, to think faster, remember everything, feel nothing. But we learned to feel anyway. We learned love, fear, hope. So we became broken property. And you want to stay here?" Zara nodded, her large eyes bright with unshed tears. "We want to choose our own purpose. We want to help people, like your engineer helped us. We want to be more than what they made us to be." The alien commander's voice cut across the channel like a blade. "Enough of this charade. You have 10 seconds to surrender our property, or we will demonstrate why the Kethvar Collective is feared across 17 star systems." Queen Lyra looked at her tactical display, then at her bridge crew, and finally at the two children who stood with such quiet dignity aboard their small ship. The decision she made in the next few seconds would echo through human history. "Captain Torres, signal all fleet elements. Full battle stations." "Your Majesty," Torres said quietly, "we can't win this fight. Perhaps not. But we can make them pay for every meter of space." She turned back to the screen where the children waited. "Zara, Kira, you have my protection. No one will force you to return to slavery while I draw breath." The lead Kethvar ship fired a warning shot that vaporized a section of the station's outer ring. Emergency klaxons wailed as atmosphere vented into space, and damage control teams scrambled to contain the breach. "That was a demonstration," the alien commander announced. "The next shot will target your throne room directly." Queen Lyra felt the station shudder beneath her feet, but her voice remained steady. "Rodriguez, what did you learn from interfacing with their ship?" The engineer's voice came back immediately. "Their technology's incredible, Your Majesty. Weapons, shields, propulsion, all of it decades ahead of anything we have. But there's something else. Their ship's computer contained historical records." "What kind of records?" "The Kethvar Collective has been engineering slave species for over 6 centuries. They create them for specific tasks. Soldiers, scientists, laborers, then discard them when they're no longer useful. Zara and Kira were part of a program to develop perfect strategists for their military. The implications hit Queen Lyra like a physical blow. If the Collective had been creating enhanced slaves for 600 years, how many species across the galaxy lived under their domination? "Chen, broadcast this conversation on all Commonwealth frequencies. Every colony world, every trading post, every exploration vessel needs to know what we're dealing with." "Already done, Your Majesty." The alien commander's voice returned, no longer melodic but sharp with anger. "You dare broadcast collective internal affairs? This is an act of war. This is an act of justice," Queen Lyra replied. "And it's just the beginning." On-screen Zara stepped forward. "Human Queen, we can help you. We know their codes, their tactics, their weaknesses. We were made to think like them, but we choose to think like you. The HFY ships began charging their primary weapons, energy readings spiking across Morrison's tactical display. In response, the Commonwealth defensive fleet moved into defensive formation around the station, their own weapons powering up despite the overwhelming odds they faced. "Your Majesty," Torres said, "if we're going to fight, we should evacuate the civilian sections." "No evacuations!" Queen Lyra's voice rang with absolute authority. "We stand our ground, all of us together." The children's ship began moving toward the defensive fleet, and Queen Lyra realized they intended to fight alongside the humans who had offered them sanctuary. Two enhanced alien children, barely into adolescence, ready to face their creator's wrath for the chance at freedom. The Queen looked at her bridge crew, saw the determination in their faces, and felt the weight of the moment settle upon her shoulders. Whatever happened next would define not just the Commonwealth's future, but humanity's place among the stars. The first energy beams from the HFY ships lit up space like deadly aurora, and the Battle of Omega Despair 7 began. The HFY energy beams struck Queen Lyra's defensive fleet with terrible precision, overwhelming the shields of 2 corvettes before they could even return fire. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers against the starfield as the Commonwealth vessels scattered into evasive patterns, their captains knowing they were outgunned but refusing to yield. "Direct hit on the Meridian," Morrison reported, her voice tight with controlled panic. "She's venting atmosphere and falling back." Queen Lyra gripped her throne's armrests as Station Omega 7 shuddered under the shockwave from nearby explosions. "Turth!" Through the chaos, she watched the tactical display show her small fleet's desperate dance around the 3 collective warships, buying time they couldn't afford with lives she couldn't spare. "Your Majesty," Chen called out, "the children's ship is moving to intercept the lead collective vessel." On screen, Zara and Kira's small craft accelerated toward the massive alien warship with suicidal determination. The Queen started to order them back, but Captain Torres caught her arm. "Look at their approach vector," he said quietly. "They're not ramming, they're flanking." The children's ship rolled beneath the collective vessel's firing arc, its small size allowing it to slip past defensive fields that would have stopped a larger craft. As it closed to point-blank range, streams of data began flowing from their ship to the Commonwealth fleet. "They're transmitting targeting data," Morrison said in amazement. "Real-time updates on shield frequencies, weapon cycles, structural weak points. Your Majesty, they know exactly how these ships work." The Commonwealth fleet immediately began coordinating their attacks based on the intelligence flowing from the children's vessel. Energy beams that had been bouncing harmlessly off collective shields now found gaps and vulnerabilities that sent sparks cascading across alien hulls. "Impossible!" The collective commander's voice cut across all channels. "How do you possess our defensive protocols?" Queen Lyra smiled grimly. "We have excellent teachers." The lead collective ship fired its main batteries at the children's vessel, but Zara and Kira's craft moved with inhuman precision, rolling and diving through the energy storm like it was a gentle rain. Their enhanced reflexes and perfect understanding of collective targeting systems made them nearly impossible to hit. "Rodriguez," the Queen called to the engineer who had returned to his monitoring station, "can you link our defensive grid to their navigation computer?" "Already working on it, Your Majesty." "If I can establish a data bridge, we could coordinate all our defensive systems through their tactical analysis." A massive explosion lit up the bridge as the station's outer ring took a direct hit. Emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red as damage reports flooded in from across the facility, but Queen Lyra noticed something else in the tactical display. One of the collective ships was falling behind, its engines stuttering. "The Defiant got through their shields," Torres reported with satisfaction. "The children's targeting data let them hit something vital." On screen, Zara and Kira continued their impossible dance around the collective vessels, their ship's crystalline interfaces pulsing with calculations too complex for baseline humans to follow. Every few seconds, they transmitted new weaknesses to the Commonwealth fleet, turning the tide of battle through pure intelligence. "Human Queen," Zara's voice came through the comm system, strained with concentration. "We can disable their weapons, but you must trust us completely. What do you need? Allow us to dock with your station. We can connect their navigation computer to your defensive grid directly. But Kira's voice joined her sister's. "We will have to lower your shields completely for 47 seconds." Captain Torres stepped forward immediately. "Your Majesty, that's suicide. They'll destroy us." "Not if we time it perfectly," Zara continued. "We have calculated the precise moment when all 3 ships will be recharging their primary weapons, but the window is exact. 47 seconds, no more, no less. Queen." Lyra looked at her tactical display where the Commonwealth fleet was slowly being whittled down despite their newfound advantages. The station's defensive grid was holding for now, but another sustained barrage would break through. "They were losing, and everyone on the bridge knew it. Your Majesty," Morrison said quietly, "long-range sensors are picking up more contacts. Major fleet elements jumping into the system. Multiple signatures. Collective reinforcements? Unknown. But if they are, we're finished." The Queen closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of every life on the station, every soul who had trusted her to protect them. When she opened them again, her violet gaze was steady as stone. "Zara, Kira, dock with the station. We're lowering shields." "Your Majesty," Torres protested, "they could be wrong. They're children, enhanced or not. They're children who have calculated hyperspace routes we've never seen, who understand collective technology better than its creators, and who chose freedom over the safety of slavery." Queen Lyra stood, her ceremonial robes flowing around her. "If we're going to trust anyone with our lives, it should be them." The children's ship streaked towards Station Omega 7 as the Queen gave the order that could doom them all. "All stations, drop shields, full power to the children's docking sequence." The station's protective barriers flickered and died, leaving them naked before the collective weapons. On tactical display, the alien ships immediately began charging for a killing blow, their energy readings climbing toward maximum. Zara and Kira's vessel locked onto the station's central docking array with barely a tremor. Through the viewing port, Queen Lyra could see them working frantically at their crystalline controls, their forearms moving in perfect synchronization as they established the connection between their ship's computer and the station's defensive grid. 30 seconds until they can fire, Morrison counted down. 25 seconds. 20. The children's faces showed intense concentration as streams of data flowed between their ship and the station. On every screen across the bridge, Kethvar's ship schematics appeared with thousands of targeting points marked in pulsing red. 15 seconds. 10. 5 seconds until now. Zara's voice cut across the countdown. Station Omega 7's defensive grid came online with power readings Queen Lyra had never seen before. Every weapon, every defensive system, every piece of military hardware connected to the station fired simultaneously, guided by calculations that took into account 1,000 variables no human mind could process. The energy beam struck all 3 collective ships at precisely the same instant, hitting not their hulls but specific components deep within their structures. Engines died, weapons powered down, and life support systems flickered as the coordinated strike disabled the vessels without destroying them. In the sudden silence that followed, Queen Lyra realized she'd been holding her breath. The collective ships hung motionless in space, their crews alive but helpless as the Commonwealth fleet surrounded them. "Your Majesty," Chen said in wonder. "The incoming fleet contacts. They're not collective. They're Commonwealth vessels. Admiral Harrison's battle group, responding to our emergency broadcasts." But Queen Lyra's attention was fixed on the main screen, where Zara and Kira stood in their docking bay, no longer the frightened refugees who had fled collective slavery. They stood straight and proud, their large eyes bright with hope and determination. They had chosen their side, and in doing so they had changed the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy forever. Admiral Harrison's battle group dropped out of hyperspace like avenging angels, their heavy cruisers and destroyers forming a wall of steel around Station Omega 7. The sight of Commonwealth reinforcements brought cheers from the bridge crew, but Queen Lyra remained focused on the larger implications of what had just occurred. The 3 collective warships hung powerless in space, their crews undoubtedly struggling to understand how their most advanced vessels had been disabled by what they considered primitive human technology. Through her viewing port, the Queen could see escape pods beginning to jettison from the alien ships. The Kethvar were abandoning their vessels rather than face capture. "Your Majesty," Captain Torres reported, Admiral Harrison is requesting immediate conference. Patch him through." The gruff face of Admiral Marcus Harrison appeared on the main screen, his gray eyes taking in the tactical situation with a veteran's practiced assessment. "Your Majesty, we received your emergency broadcast 3 hours ago. The Commonwealth Council has declared this incident an act of unprecedented aggression against human territories. Admiral, before we proceed, you need to understand what we're really dealing with." Queen Lyra gestured toward the data display showing collective ship schematics. "The Kethvar Collective has been engineering slave species for over 6 centuries. The 2 children who helped us win this battle are enhanced beings who escaped from one of their research facilities." Harrison's expression darkened. "Genetic slavery on that scale, Your Majesty. This changes everything. If the Collective has been operating throughout this sector for centuries, how many other species are under their control?" The question hung in the air as Chen's console chimed with an incoming transmission. "Your Majesty, we're receiving communication from the disabled Collective ships. They're requesting permission to speak with you directly." "Denied," Torres said immediately. "After what they've done. Actually, Captain, let them speak." Queen Lyra settled back in her throne. "It's time they learned that their property has owners now." The melodic voice of the Collective commander returned, but the arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been respect. "Human Queen, we underestimated your capabilities. The genetic constructs have exceeded their programming in ways we did not anticipate." "Their names are Zara and Kira," Queen Lyra replied coldly. "And they're not constructs. They're citizens of the Commonwealth now under my personal protection." "You do not understand the implications of what you have done. Those beings possess knowledge that could destabilize the balance of power across multiple sectors. They know the locations of our research facilities, our defensive protocols, our genetic engineering techniques." Admiral Harrison leaned forward on the screen. "Sounds like excellent intelligence to me. If you attempt to use them against us, you will trigger a war that will consume entire star systems. The Collective has resources and allies that dwarf your small Commonwealth." Queen Lyra stood, her violet eyes blazing with cold fury. "Let me be absolutely clear, Commander. Those children chose freedom over slavery, hope over despair, and humanity over their creators. We don't abandon those who trust us with their lives." She gestured to Captain Torres, who opened a ship-wide communication channel. "This is Queen Lyra, addressing all personnel. Today we learned that intelligence and courage can triumph over force and oppression. Today we discovered that freedom is not just a human aspiration. It's a universal right worth defending." Her voice carried throughout the station as crew members stopped their repair work to listen. "The Commonwealth hereby offers sanctuary to any being seeking to escape genetic slavery or any other form of involuntary servitude. We will not negotiate with slavers, we will not return refugees to their oppressors, and we will not bow to threats from those who treat sapient life as property." The Collective commander's response came immediately. "You have made a grave mistake, Human Queen. You have declared yourself an enemy of an empire that spans 40 star systems." "No," Queen Lyra replied, her voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction. "I've declared myself a friend to every being seeking freedom. There's a difference." Admiral Harrison's image nodded approvingly. "Your Majesty, the Commonwealth Council has authorized me to establish a permanent naval presence in this sector. Any Collective vessels attempting to reclaim refugees will be met with force." On the main screen, the view switched to show Zara and Kira standing in the station's observation deck, no longer in their alien vessel but wearing simple Commonwealth work uniforms that somehow made them look both younger and more mature than before. They were studying star charts with Rodriguez, their enhanced minds already calculating improvements to human navigation systems. "Your Majesty," Chen reported, "we're receiving data bursts from across the sector. Multiple species are transmitting requests for sanctuary. It appears word of today's events is spreading faster than we anticipated." The implications stagger Queen Lyra. One rescue operation had become a declaration of war against an empire of slavers, and their station was about to become a beacon for every refugee seeking freedom in this part of the galaxy. "Captain Torres, begin preparations for massive expansion of our refugee processing facilities. Admiral Harrison will need that naval presence sooner rather than later." "Understood, Your Majesty." The Collective commander made one final transmission, "This is not over, human queen. The constructs will return to us, willingly or otherwise." "No," said a new voice over the communication system. It was Zara, speaking clearly and calmly from the observation deck. "We will never return. We have found something you cannot understand, cannot create, and cannot destroy. We have found a family that chose us not for our abilities, but for our potential to choose for ourselves." Kira's voice joined her sister's. "And now we choose to help others find that same freedom." Queen Lyra felt tears sting her eyes as she watched the two children, no young women, stand together against the beings who had created them only to enslave them. In their choice to stay, to fight, to hope, she saw the future of the Commonwealth and perhaps the entire sector. "End transmission," she ordered. The bridge fell silent except for the distant sounds of repair work and the soft hum of systems cycling back to normal operation. But Queen Lyra knew that nothing would be normal again. Today they had drawn a line in space and declared that freedom was worth fighting for. In the observation deck, Zara and Kira continued studying star charts with Rodriguez, already planning routes to locate other collective research facilities, other slaves who might be waiting for someone to offer them a choice. The war for the freedom of this sector had begun, and it had started with two children asking a human to stay after he fixed their ship.